Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Pastor Kathy,
And I'm Brother Jared.
and we thank you for joining us today. It is a storm. It's rainy. It's not really storming day.
It's very nice outside.
It's a nap weather day, so we're a little draggy this morning and behind, but it'll be okay. As far as announcements for this week, it's meeting week for us.
Yes, a lot of meetings, a lot of planning.
So tomorrow night we'll have the SBR. Tomorrow being Tuesday at 5:30, SBRC/PPR's meeting. That is the committee that works with us and works with the staff of the church. Also tomorrow night, trustees meet at 6, and they are the ones that work with the building property, work with assets of the church to maintain and to be good stewards. Then on Thursday at 6, nominations will meet. And we're hoping this will be a very quick meeting to say, did you call your people? Yes, they all said yes. So
Yeah, hopefully
that's the
that'll.
goal.
Yeah,
And then finance is going to meet sometime, and we're going to work on that today. Might be via Zoom, it might be via email. It's just two very little things that we need to discuss before Charge Conference. And Charge Conference itself will be on October 4th after worship. Not during, so don't worry about that.
no, it'll be afterwards.
It'll be after. Our DS, our district superintendent, Larry Hilliard, will be with us. And
Excuse me.
so it should be a good time to celebrate the ministries of the church and to look forward to next year. Everything else is pretty normal this week, as far as I know.
Yeah, everything's just get back into the swing of things.
So, we mailed out the Turbo Tuesday, Sunday, virtual, the Turbo craft boxes last week.
Yeah, yes.
So, I know at least one family's received them, but I'm sure if you haven't received it, it's either on its way or I made a grave mistake in the address. So if you don't receive it in the next week or so, just let me know. And good morning, Mother, and the other person who's watching us right now, Ramble.
Let's keep going.
So, thank you for joining us. Let's see. So, on to our sermon yesterday. We are doing a sermon series that we're calling Earn, Save, Give. It's based on John Wesley's sermon, The Use of Money, which is a standard sermon, which means it's United Methodist doctrine. It's also written in the 1700s.
It's very hard to read.
It's very dense. And so we're using a supplementary book called Earn, Save, Give by... It's either James or John Harmish. I think it's James. Jared thinks it's John.
It's Harnish, not Harmish. Anyway, some dude wrote it. We're using him. But we quote him, so we're good.
Because he breaks it down in easier terms. And plus, we had this discussion Saturday night on the Save section with Wesley. Because he talks about some really random things.
Yeah, we don't really use anything from the use of money.
We do, no, that's not what I'm getting at.
Oh.
We do, but he, for the Save section, he talked about random things.
Yeah.
Because it's 1700s, their banking system was far different in England than it is in modern America.
Well, also, Mr. Harnish, he used other sermons in his points. He didn't use the use of money. He used other... He didn't quote John Wesley in this section because everything that John Wesley talked about in saving was don't waste your money. Don't give it to people who are going to blow it. Don't waste your money on frivolous things. That's all he talked about.
For some odd reason, I still think it's because the banks do not have saving accounts for essentially coal miners. I think that's the issue.
It's just remarkably different. So
Yeah.
so Mr. Harness uses other passages from other sermons, but it still nails the same points.
And good morning, Billy. Glad that you're with us too. So, in your sermon, you started off by talking about being a good steward. What does a steward mean?
A good steward is a good manager, someone who manages something. So when I think of good stewards, I think of Kathy because she's very good at managing money and other things. Versus me, who just bleeds money. So
I think of ants, personally, and that's coming, for me, it comes from, I guess it's an Aesop fable. Mom, you might have to correct me on this, but it was the story of the grasshopper and the ants, and how the ants spent all this time collecting food, preparing, and the grasshopper was lazy, would play all day, wouldn't get any work done, and then winter came, and the grasshopper didn't have anything. But the ants had their supply because they had prepared. They had been good stewards of the harvest. And like I said, I think that's an Aesop's a tall tale that exists in the world. Might be a scouting legend too, who knows. But there is also scriptural reference to that in Proverbs. Chapter 6 is talking about ants. And it says, consider the ant. You lazy person, observe its ways and grow wise. The ant has no commander, officer, or ruler. Even so, it gets food in the summer, gathers its provisions at harvest. So, even though there's no one over the ants other than other ants, they still know to gather what they need when they have it, and to save it, and to prepare for the future.
yeah.
You also made the point of having a plan.
Yes, we have to have a plan. And once again, my wife has been teaching me these things. Yes.
Well, you want to do something different.
Yeah, I wanted to change the 10-10-80 plan. I wanted to make it the 10-20-60 plan. Well, 10-20-10-50 plan, but that's too complicated.
That's why we didn't do it, because we had to explain this to kids.
Well, yeah, and we explained how for the 10-10-80 plan, 10% goes to God because, after all, everything belongs to God. You've received your body from God, your hands, your intellect. You manipulate things on this earth which God created. I mean, everything is His, so you give 10% back. And then you give 10%, you save it. You put it away for rainy days, or when the car blows up, or, some emergency, or for, like, your retirement. And then you spend the rest of the 80, with joy and gratitude and paying the rest, and paying your taxes, your necessities, and everything else. Well, I wanted to change it to still get 10% to God, but save 20% because of our allusion to our story with Joseph, how he was able to save 20%, and when he saved 20%, they eventually stopped counting all the grain, and they were able to feed not only the entire nation of Egypt, but also the surrounding nations. And then give 10% to the government, and then spend 50% on whatever you want. But that's not as clean as 10-10-80. But you still have to have a plan in what you're doing, and like Joseph, he had a plan. He
1/5.
He urged Pharaoh. He's like during the 7 years of plenty, y'all need to save 20%. So when the 7 years of famine come, we'll have enough. And with that plan, they did have enough, and they were able to feed, once again, everyone else around them as well. So.
And I've always used 10% as a base guideline. And that is what we put into our emergency fund. But when it comes to having a plan, you there's more to it than just your emergency fund. This is borrowing from Dave Ramsey a lot. It's basically his envelope system. What we do, anyways, and what works for us. Our 10% goes to our emergency fund. The emergency fund is in case we get laid off, in case we need... it was Aesop Fables. Look at that. The emergency fund is in case we get laid off, we need a major purchase, anything like that. And we are working to build it up to where we could both be without jobs for 6 months and be fine. That's our goal right now. And then we put additional money into savings. We anticipate our needs. And so with anticipating our needs, we look at the year and say, what's going to come up? What's going to be a major expense? So in January, I sit down and look at different things that come up. Like clergy taxes are impossible to figure out.
Oh my goodness.
I've tried to do it via Turbo, and I think Turbo just looked at me and went,
We did TurboTax the first year. Never
again.
It was just... Anyway, it's another story.
Yeah, because we get a double W-2 from the church, but we're considered self-employed. It doesn't make sense to anyone.
We're self-employed and employed.
Yeah, so
it costs a lot of money to hire an accountant. Anyway.
That's the main point. We have to have a CPA.
Oh.
And CPAs are not cheap. And so I look about how much a CPA is going to cost us and then divide it out over 12 months. And so we're just putting aside maybe $40 a month and anticipation of that, and in anticipation of that future expense. And so $40 a month is a lot more manageable than looking down the road and saying, oh my goodness, we owe $400.
Where are we going to get $400?
Where is this coming from? So we do that with the CPA. We have a CARF emergency fund.
Insurance.
We have to set aside money for insurance.
Pets.
We have money in case one of the cats needs something.
So there's a lot of things, and then, for example, like this month, we had to pay a lot of things down, and my wife's like, okay, now look, we only have this much, but we do have funds, but they're just set aside so that when they do come up,
it's like designated funds.
We're ready.
Yeah.
And it's taught me a lot. Once again, I just bleed money. I'm steadily learning, but
the first time I did the budget for us and balanced the checkbook, I do it all electronically, so there's no actual checkbook. Yeah. I went through, and every time he got gas, there'd be like a $2 or $3 charge because he would go in and get Skittles.
Yeah, Skittles are amazing.
And it was consistent every single time, and he was driving...
I was driving like 100 miles a day.
Right.
I was driving 500 miles a week.
He was stopping and get gas a lot and getting a lot of Skittles.
That's why I drive a little wind-up white car. I don't drive that yellow. Someone said I drove a yellow Jeep the other day. No. I have a little wind-up car that gets 40 miles to the gallon.
So, sitting down looking at our budget, I was able to show him, you are bleeding money. This is what you do.
Yeah, she got one of those like CVS receipts. They're like, it's like they give you a tree because it's so long. She showed me like that style.
Yeah. So that's how we came to our budget. And planning and having a plan and anticipating our needs. And good morning, Sandy. I'm glad you're joining us and that you're enjoying this rambling
It's
mess.
The rambling of the pastors. But that's okay.
Yes, that's okay. And another point that you had was that you can't take it with you.
Yes, so it would be great if we could take, fitting in with the Egyptians, they tried to take their money with them, right? A lot of the pharaohs would put all their stuff, riches, gold, scepters, but we know that you can't take it with you. So Wesley encouraged people to, and with Mr. Harnish as well, to have another plan to use your assets, use the resources you've gained on this earth, and invest them for future ministries so that when you pass away, God's kingdom will continue to work. And I use the example of Trinity Williams. Trinity Williams was a member here way back when, and she had a lot of resources, and she invested in helping purchase one of the buildings for the church, and in this building, a lot of God's ministries are continuing. Now, I know from our household, we might not be able to give enough where we can buy an entire building, but still, with whatever you have, you can invest it in perhaps a smaller ministry, such as a food pantry or what have you, and that'll continue to clothe your neighbor or feed the hungry or continue to witness to others of God's grace and of his son Jesus, of all that. So that's something we can consider.
When you anticipate your needs like that, if you start off planning for the future like that, it doesn't matter how much you make now. The book, James or John made the point, brought up the story of this woman from Wayne County who had been essentially a housekeeper, a clothes washer woman for all of her life, but for all of her life she set aside money. And when she passed away, she was able to leave a sizable scholarship at USM so that other students, so that students could go be able to get an education.
Yeah, so she did that for how many years? Like 40, 50 years. So it's still the same thing. You can save,
accumulates.
Put stuff aside, pray to God, what do you want me to do? And then allow him to guide you on how to use your resources even when you pass away.
Now, what's the difference between saving and hoarding?
Oh, yes, I didn't talk about this, but you have to have a balance, okay? I know some of us, well, at every church I've been to, a lot of churches, they don't want to get rid of things. We tend to hoard stuff at churches. And sometimes we have to let things go. So there's a difference between saving all of your possessions and having an obsession that's unhealthy. So if you're going to be on an episode of Hoarders, you're probably doing it wrong. We're not encouraging you to save every single thing that you have, because that's not practical, it's not healthy.
You still have to provide for your needs.
Yeah, we're not saying don't feed your family. We're not saying, don't put money aside so that when emergencies or what have you come awry. But you have to do it in a healthy and balanced manner. If you have a contraption that's borderline dangerous because it's in disrepair, but you're hoarding it because, well, just in case, you probably need to get rid of that for your health.
Good morning, Michelle. Thank you for joining us, too.
And I would say that Wesley would say, save all you can without harming yourself.
And I think John Wesley, when it comes to inheritance, he was not a fan, to some degree. He wanted you to provide for your children's future, but if your children were going to squander it, then your money would be best served elsewhere.
Yeah. And Cindy asked who was Trinity Williams. Trinity Williams was a longtime member of Picayune First, and she contributed to building the administrative building, which is the building in the middle of our church property, in between the two-story building and the sanctuary. So that's who Trinity Williams was.
Ah! Good morning, Miss Leach.
Good morning, Miss Michelle.
So, can't take it with you. And then there was actually another point that...
Yeah, I didn't get to.
somehow missed the sermon, but that happens.
It was there. You gave it in the children's message.
So what was that other point?
Well, it was to consider the wise counsel of others.
What do you mean by that?
It means to ask for help. Like what we're going to do after this in an email to a financial planner who I've been meaning to send an email for 6 months. But anyway, I'm getting to it, but to seek the counsel of others who know how to manage money. So we've mentioned, there's some financial people who are really good. Like, I'm not getting paid to say this, but like Ramsey, his system. His system's pretty good. We adapt some of it. We don't agree with all of it. I used to package his books in a warehouse, but that's a whole nother story. But to seek the counsel of others who know how to manage money, like my wife.
So if this is not an area you're comfortable in,
like me,
then find someone who is.
Yeah.
Find someone who is that you trust, more importantly, and ask them, how do I get started? How do I begin saving? Or if you've already begun saving, how do you continue? And what's the best route and plan for you?
And we do have people in the congregation who might be able to help out if y'all are listening to this. I'm not going to tell them to do this right now. I'm not going to say their names. But we do have some people who do know how to manage money. Mm-hmm. And if you are interested or you're struggling, you can ask. And, we're supposed to help our neighbor. And we can help you. Of course, we'll sit down and have a plan. Like the A-Team style. But anyway, seek the wise counsel of others.
Mm-hmm. Also, yesterday, is that all you had on that point before I move on?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. So we talked about Joseph and how he saved and how Pharaoh went to him to interpret dreams, and then Joseph pointed out that the meaning of the dreams was not good for Egypt. They'd have 7 years of abundance and then 7 years of famine, and that during the 7 years of abundance that Egypt needed to save, and they saved 1/5 of everything. Now, is there anything else in that story that you found interesting? Like Joseph's name.
Oh, yeah. So Joseph's name, Yosef, it's actually interesting. It comes from the verb to add or to multiply. So Joseph, through God's grace, of course, multiplied the grain.
He multiplied the grain. Mm-hmm. And looking at the story of Joseph, he multiplied the nation of Israel.
Yes, he also fulfilled the promise, remember, to Abraham. What was that? God's promise to Abraham, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, as the sand on the seashore.
So Joseph, the multiplier, through his wisdom, was able to do that.
Yep.
And I remember we talked a lot about verb tense.
We did?
We did. PL? Yeah, we did.
Oh, the intensive? Yeah. Mm-hmm. On which verb?
You talk.
I talk. Yeah, which... There's only one PL tense.
Well, you were talking about it Saturday night.
Yeah, but which verb was it?
I don't remember which verb.
I don't have the notes in front of me.
So in...
Help me.
In English, we have past...
Oh, mode. You're talking about mode. Okay, continue.
Past, present, and future tense. In Hebrew, they do something different. They have more tenses than we have. And so, usually...
they have less tenses. You're thinking of Greek.
No, I'm not. Well, what's
Perfect,
the word then?
Imperfect. You're thinking of stems.
PL and his
stems.
Those are stems. Well, what would be the equivalent to that in English?
Well, I guess...
Is there an equivalent?
We would use, like, adverbs. More adverbs.
Anyways, the point is... In English, our verbs are very simple, comparatively. In Hebrew, they do something different, and you can have modifiers on your verbs that expand their meaning. And so in this section, one of the verbs was in what we're calling PL, and what that means is it's more intensive. And so not only did he save during the time of abundance, he abundantly saved during the time of abundance.
Yeah, it was like, it wasn't just saving. It was an insane amount of saving. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get out.
It's fine. It's fine. It's not mean to show up my wife. It's just, there's a lot to it.
So it's to say during their time of abundance, they were saving to the utmost point that they could save and provide for their people.
And it's literally, they were saving handfuls at a time. So a lot. But still goes same kind of meaning.
That's really it. So handfuls at a time.
Handfuls at a time.
So there are things in Hebrew is the main point that I'm trying to get at that amplify the story.
Yeah, and we don't always get it in English.
Right. Did you really? Okay. So the lady that we're talking about earlier, who was just spent her life washing clothes, cleaning houses, that sort of thing, and then when she passed, set up a scholarship fund at USM. It was Osceola McCarthy.
I have no idea, but I think that's it.
We're going to go with that pronunciation.
Miss Diane, she knows everybody.
So. Apparently Mom met her. That's really cool. So even though you come from little, if you save abundantly and save by the handfuls, you can really increase your output.
You can. Excuse me.
So that is our points for today. Thank you for joining us. Next week is going to be focused on give.
Yep. So, and Kathy's up, so I gotta grill her.
So we thank you for joining us. Goodness, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see y'all later. Bye bye.